aboard! All aboard the hype train to Albion! Now boarding the hype train to Albion! That's right. We've got some news for you Fable fans. The Xbox Direct happened today and we've got some news on Fable. Finally, some concrete stuff we can talk about. Very exciting stuff. This has been a game that has been in my hype list probably since it was announced. I'm a big Fable fan. I love Fable 1 and 2. I don't want to talk about Fable 3. It was a huge disappointment, and it was probably one of the first games that I was truly disappointed in. Whatever, that's a whole nother story for another day. But let's talk about Fable coming autumn of 2026. Assuming there's no delays, we will have Fable in our grubby little hands by the end of this year, hopefully by the holiday season. So with that, let's talk about some of the good things we saw in the Direct today, talk about some of the concerns that I may have or that I'm hearing about, and then let's talk about what I'm hoping we will see going forward to just cement that this will be a true Fable experience. So when we talk about the good, the very first thing I want to talk about right out of the gate is character customization. This was something that had a lot of fans worried, myself included, that they weren't going to give you any customization and that you were going to play as just the one female the female character that they've showed in the trailers. I didn't even love the art style for that character, but today it was shown. We will have full character customization from scars, tattoos, clothing. So how deep it goes, only time will tell, but we definitely are getting character customization. You'll be able to play as a male or a female, play as who you want, how you want, and that is good news for Fable. Another thing that I found to be very intriguing and really exciting and very interesting is the 1,000 living player NPCs, all with voice acting, all with their own personalities, all with their same schedules. That is exciting stuff. I think that's going to be a really unique experience, should make Albion feel alive, and these settlements and cities should feel more alive. There's going to be a lot of interesting things, and I think as a content creator and a fan of this, I think there's going to be some fun things we can do inside the game with the NPCs. It will be curious to see how deep this really goes. In an interview after the Xbox Direct, it was on the Xbox Wire, they talked about this, and they even gave an example of in early game development, they were finding settlements didn't have any NPCs in it, and they couldn't figure out why. And when they pulled back into debug and they were looking at it, the characters were walking really far to the settlement to work, and before they would get there, they had to turn around and go home because of the schedule, because they mentioned that, you know, if you're going to have a character who has a living schedule, they need to have a bed, they need to have a place to go. And so if you have 1,000 NPCs, that means you probably could have, 500 houses, 400, maybe 350, give or take, because there's going to be some homeless and married couples. So who knows exactly what that's going to look like, but it is exciting. And of course, that with that comes the other portion of the Fable world that I just loved, was the interaction with the NPCs, the ability to romance and give gifts and get them to follow and marry them and do other things with them, and have children, own homes, and essentially have this world that you get to live in. And then, of course, with that came, the divorce, having multiple wives and multiple settlements, having them find out, evicting people. Sounds like there's going to be a lot in that space of Albion that is in Fable that is really exciting for fans of the series. I'm very, very excited for what this could look like. This gave me the true, as I watched it, it was the 1,000 player NPCs that really felt like this could have some Fable tones. It'll be curious to see. They didn't really show any dialogue options. I did notice your NPC did have dialogue in many of the games prior. It didn't. And if it did, it was minimal, if I recall. But, they did the flexing as the flirting, or blow kiss, or you kiss my ass was one of the gestures. It was more gesture based. So it'll be interesting to see how they work some of that into it. But very excited to see a living world with fully voiced NPCs that go about their lives, can create a lot of fun for content creators, and I'm real excited to see what that could become. And of course, they also showed off some of the mini games where it looked like they were doing some blacksmithing. That was always a fun piece in Fable 2, where you could go to a town, get a job, earn gold and then be able to buy up the houses and get married and romance the NPCs. So I saw a lot of that in this that, again, really had that Fable touch, and I'm really excited about. I think those things were real hits. And then, of course, when you look at the game itself, you're going to start off as a kid. I think that's a really nice return to the OG, the way it started in those games. You always started as a kid. I like that. We're going to see Bowerstone and the Heroes Guild. We're going to see that rise of being a hero in the game. I think those things all really felt like Fable and have some really strong things tied to them. I'm curious to see what it'll look like, if there's going to be boasting systems, what really are the quest lines going to look like. I'm very curious to see that. But it is nice to see Bowerstone, to see the Heroes Guild starting as a kid. And then, of course, there's the open world. And that, for me, is a huge bonus. I love open world games generally, so I'm excited to see what the world of Albion looks like. In the original games, it was kind of like section by section you played, but this is a true open world. They are not locking it off based on the interview afterward. They're not locking it off based on level. There may be some areas where are harder to get to or harder to get through because of your skill sets, but they're going to make it so that you can truly explore the world. And with that, none of the quests are going to be ticking time bombs that say you have to do this before you do any of this. They really wanted to give you the freedom to just live inside of Albion and really enjoy the world of Fable and really get to experience what this game has. And of course, you could always start from the beginning and run through the main story, or you could really take your time and live in it and see what is inside of this game. Graphically, I thought the game looks really nice. We'll talk about performance in a little bit, but graphically, I thought the game looked really pretty. There was some really nice vistas and some really great scenery and things to look at. The character models I thought looked okay. I think it's in line. It doesn't have the true, I don't feel like it had the exact Fable feel, but I felt like it looked good. It looked like a new age. I mean, Playground Games has built this with Unreal Engine. They've worked on Forza, so they're used to using the tools and the photorealism. So some of that really definitely showed. And with that, I felt like the combat was actually pretty decent, what they showed off. I'm definitely curious to see how many magical things we can do, how many effects there are, how many different weapons there are. They showcased a few of everything, but it definitely still had that will, strength, and skill trees that we were used to in the Fable game. So I'm definitely excited to see how they expand on that. Fable 2 is a little bit of a button masher to go between, and I noticed in a couple screenshots it looked like it may have similar button mashing capabilities where if you want to go from melee to range to magic, you could do so just by changing which buttons you hit, and then putting combos together to get different effects. All of that's really good, and depending on how well they weave that in, I think could make this a really fun combat experience. They certainly showed the skeleton where he shoots him in the foot and he falls and then hits him with the hammer. I think that's great. Or where one of the hobs hit the other hob and knocks him out, and that's kind of a fun, unique thing that happened in the game. So it looks like the combat in this is going to be pretty well designed. I'm curious to see how it'll feel and flow, but it definitely looked good in what little bit of time we saw in the combat systems of this direct. And of course, probably for me, one of the most exciting things is the return of choice and consequence. This has always been something that's made Fable special, is that you have choices, and when you make those choices, you live with the consequences. One of the reasons that I think Fable 3 fell apart was Peter Molyneux made a ton of promises as to what this game would be, could be, should be. And one of the things I remember him boasting about that never really was in Fable 3 was that you could change the world around you. Well, it looks like we're seeing some of that in this Fable, where they showed it in the direct. You have a choice to kill a giant or not kill the giant. If you kill the giant, its body lays there for the rest of the game, and the house prices change, and NPCs act differently because of that. I think that could be a lot of fun. It gives a lot of replayability, gives you a chance to try things in different ways and play different options and see how it works. I'm really excited for that. I really hope we see more choice and consequence as we get closer to launch. Now, with that, though, comes a couple concerns. And one of those concerns is that same game mechanic morality. In the original Fable, it was good and evil, right? You do good things, you start to get a halo, people speak to you differently, shop prices drop. You do evil things, you grow horns, and people run from you. They are changing that to a morality-based system. My concern, I think, in that is there is a lot of gray in real life, but this isn't real life. This is a game. What I think could be unique is they indicated as much that NPCs will have certain personalities and traits and things that they like and don't like. And as you do these things and are seen by other villagers or people doing them, you will earn statuses like Chicken Chaser they showed, or Tycoon, or Rich. And some characters don't like rich people. They might think that you're just a rich twat, as it shows in the screenshot, or as it shows in the trailer. Or they might not like you because you evicted them from a house, or they might call you a hero or a legend because of things you've done. That morality scale will be interesting to see, though, what kind of agendas it pushes, if any, and how that really works into the game. It doesn't seem, at least it hasn't been confirmed, and maybe we'll see this later, that there's going to be any morphing. Well, I think what's going to happen is I don't think you're going to see morphing. You're not going to see your guy gaining a halo or horns or lines on their arm when they use magic or fat when they eat. They have not showed that. I hope that's something they're working on, and maybe will be in a build as we get closer to release. Maybe it's just not there yet, so they don't want to talk to it. Maybe it's in development, or maybe it's just not in the game. We will see. That would be a little bit of a miss for me if they don't have any of that morphing, because that was a big part of Fable, that was there. And with that, like for instance, the demon doors. They didn't talk about demon doors. They don't show that piece of the game. I'm curious, right? Because in one of the demon doors, you had to eat a bunch of pies to get really fat, and then only when you were fat would you be able to access the demon door. That was classic Fable. We'll see if that is here. And the same thing where you could take an NPC and get them to follow you, and then you murdered them in front of the demon door, and that's how you got it to open. There were things like that that you had to do to get through these little demon doors to get the treasures on the other side. Be very interesting to see what that looks like, if those types of challenges are in the game, through whether they be called demon doors or something else. But we did not see anything like that, and we didn't see any morphing, so I'm big question mark there, a little bit concerned. Hopefully there'll be more to come on that piece. So as I finished my video and started editing, I came across an IGN article. I can confirm now that morphing based on morality is not going to be in this game. So you're not going to have a traditional good versus evil, and the way they explain that essentially is doing evil may not be evil to everyone, but having horns and appearing evil would bring that evil with you, whereas you could meet somebody who doesn't view your evil as evil, and that's the morality, I guess, essentially is how that worked. Or vice versa, doing good may not always be considered good to everyone, so it didn't make sense in the game to have morphing based on your decisions. I'm real curious to see how that works. I think there's still more to unpack there, but that essentially is confirmed that morphing does not exist as far as morality. We'll still see. We haven't really hit confirmation yet if food and action makes any difference. That was a core part of Fable, but I'm guessing if there's no morphing on morality, there's going to be no morphing altogether. But anyway, back to the video. And with that, though, came a bigger question for me. When you take away good and evil and you go a morality-based system, a bigger question mark for me becomes, can you be truly evil? And I know that I personally don't like to play evil characters. I prefer to be the hero, the guy with the halo. I have enough negative in my real life every day, that between the news and politics and everything out there that's happening, I like to be the hero, the guy that stands for everything, because you can do that in video games. And that was always how I played Fable, as the true, hero. But occasionally it was fun to be evil, and being evil meant you could go into a town and slaughter the NPCs and do terrible things. And as I was thinking about this morality system, one of the things that they mentioned is that you only gain morality in that action if you're seen. So could you get villagers to follow you out into the middle of nowhere, kill them, and then become a serial killer, wiping them out one by one, and maintain great morality? I don't know. And they never once showed true acts of evil like murdering NPCs. So I'd be very curious to see if that becomes something or not. I know, there was a moment when in the direct where he's walking and the guy goes, "Oh, you're an imbecile." And I was thinking, man, if you were playing an evil build, I would turn right there and light that guy up, right? Teach him a lesson and let everybody know you do not speak to me that way. I am pure evil. I didn't see that. Don't know if it's there. Very concerned about that piece because that was a core mechanic of Fable that made it unique and very special. I'm also did not see, and this is very early. This is, you know, we're months away still, so we'll have some time to get more information on this, but they mentioned open world. And whenever I hear open world, for me, what comes up is, what does exploration look like? Having an open world is great if there's a reason to go explore it, if there's a reason to walk around in it, if there's a reason to go from one point to another and find things that are happening in this world along the way, whether it be settlements or quests or, you know, just like in you would see in Red Dead Redemption where a guy's peeing on a rock, you know, just things that are happening that show that the world is alive without you. We didn't see any of that. We don't know what that would look like. And with that, whenever you talk open worlds, the next big question mark is, how are the borders defined? Are we going to run into invisible walls along the way? Or are we going to be able to truly, if you see the mountain, go to that mountain, climb the mountain, and then at some point just not be able to traverse further because of unpassable terrain versus just an invisible wall, and then on the other side is, you know, a flat plain, you just can't walk to it. We'll see. They didn't really get into that. I'm very curious how the open world mechanics work. It looks like they've done a pretty good job with some of the cities and settlements and some of the locations and the graphics. But will it be alive? Will there be things happening? Those will be questions that will need to be answered between now and the release of this game. Another one, and they talked a lot about it, British humor. They mentioned it. They kept talking about it, but I didn't see it in the direct. There wasn't really any moments of the true British humor, other than I guess maybe when she goes, "I don't like you because you're a rich twat." Although she doesn't say it, the card says it. Be interesting to see how much is there truly in this game. Do we really have the fun British humor that we had in Fable that made it so cheeky and fun and special? And of course, there's performance. Graphically, I thought it looked really good. I'm an old man, so for me, performance is probably less important. I don't get upset between 30 and 60 frames per second. I don't even know if I could tell the difference when I'm playing a game, if I could tell between 30 and 60 frames per second. I'm old. My eyes don't work that great anymore. So I don't know what that would look like. But for me, I just hope that they can get a good performance. I've played a few Unreal games that haven't had great performance. I've never played Forza, so that could be phenomenal. Hard for me to judge. I just hope the water looks great, that the trees look good, the plants look good, the moon looks nice. I hope there's good day-night cycles that are fun, and that the world just truly feels alive and lived in, and it performs well, doesn't have a ton of frame drops. I know that this is not a popular opinion, but I would prefer a 30 frame per second that never dips below that than something that's at 60 frames but is dipping to 15 frames regularly. I guess we'll have to see. The other piece that I noticed that I'm just thinking about right now as I was thinking through what I saw is the AI of the enemies. I did not see any AI that looked really exciting. Now, we're still like 6 months away, but I would like to think at this point, I noticed in one particular shot, he's killing one guy, and there's another guy over here, and it looks like there was a guy up there, but the guy up here's not raining arrows down, and the guy over here looked like he was waiting till this guy died, and then he turned, and then he approached. I hope the AI is better than it was in the original Fables, and that it's not kind of kill this guy, now move to this guy, now move to this guy, now move to this guy, but really truly feeling like if you get into a combat where there's multiple enemies, that it's dangerous and you're having to really worry about who's coming and what they're doing. I didn't see that in the direct, but again, we still have some more time. So what do we need to see going forward? I think for me, my hype is definitely starting to grow. I'm buying my ticket for the hype train. I'm getting excited. I feel like this could be the Fable game that I've wanted for a very, very, very long time. A redemption, so to speak, from Fable 3 and then the failed Fable projects after it and the closing of Lionhead Studios. I'm hopeful that this gives us what I need. And I think in order to really get me onto that hype train all the way, I think some things I want to see. I want to see a little bit more of that British humor. I want to really understand morality and what it means to be bad. So kicking a chicken is morally could be considered good or bad. That's a pretty gray area for me. Kicking chickens is generally a bad thing. Some NPCs might find that a good thing. I really want to see that the morality more. I also want to see more around loot, items in the game, customization around armor. Like, are you able to go find different sets of armor, different weapons? They showed off a few. I want to know how those are acquired, what those look like, how you find them. I want to see a little bit more around the open world, what it means to truly explore. I think if those couple things can really hit home, the rest of it looks good. Morality is probably my biggest concern. Of course, we want to see great performance, but for me, I think the most important things right now for the next thing I want to see, I really want to understand items, loot, magic. I want to see a little bit more around the morality, truly understanding what that looks like. Can you be evil? How does that work? What are the consequences for being evil? I want to see a little bit more in that space with that morality system. I want to maybe see a little bit more choice and consequence, kind of see if there's morphing on characters and things like that. I would really like to know that answer, but those are all things we're going to have to wait and see. But autumn is coming quick, guys. I mean, that could be November 2026. We could be holding in our hands the newest edition of Fable. Very excited for it. It has me hyped. So guys, if you're new here and you haven't done so, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I really do appreciate it. This was not a video I was planning on making, but you know, I'm glad I get to make it. I'm excited. I really am. Fable for me is one of my absolute favorite games. If you ever had a chance to watch my top 10 games, Fable was right up there in the top. Love that game. I'm excited for this. But guys, going forward in this channel, I'm working right now on episode 112 of my first time playing Ark on the island. I've got a new series that I'm playing right now. I'm not going to tell you what it is just yet, but I'm playing the entire challenge that I'm doing, and then we'll be editing it, posting it. I'm also working on my original Subnautica playthrough when I went all the way through from start to finish. I'm working on editing that down into an editable version. And then, of course, I've got more Ark playthroughs coming, and I'll probably do some news. I haven't talked much about Lost Colony and the direction of Ark, but that is still to come. But guys, if you're new here, please hit that subscribe button. Stick around. We try to do fun things on this channel. And until next time, I hope you guys have a great day.